Okay, and with that, hello and welcome to Casual Shenanigans Gaming, a podcast about all things PC gaming related. This is on record as our worst start ever. Thank you for coming to spend your Thursday evening with us, unless you're listening to this later, in which case, thank you. Please go rate us on iTunes. The podcast is brought to you by 8 O'Clock Coffee, the official sponsor, the official drink beverage sponsor of Dave and Casual Shenanigans Gaming. Now, we will hopefully be joined by a guest a little bit later. It has now occurred to me I can not bring up his chat window without showing it to everyone else. So, we will hopefully be joined by a guest soon. But he's in another interview right now, so he may or may not be able to get here. But I am Germ Gaming, one of your hosts, and we are joined by Dave, the not-so-evil Viking 13.
Hi, guys.
And Joel.
Happy evening.
Yes, happy evening.
That is the most awkward greeting I've ever gotten out of you, Joel. That is... Wow.
Really? That's the most awkward greeting? What about the time I just came up and just hugged you?
I'm sorry, what?
I'm just kidding. That would be the most awkward.
Every time, then?
Every time.
So, let's get the podcast started with the news. I will skip through a couple of these tabs. We'll start with...
It's juicy news tonight.
It's tradition. We're going to start with easily the most boring story of the evening, and we'll circle back around to things people are interested in. NVIDIA and IBM is apparently still around, they have unveiled their PCI Express replacement, which boosts speeds up to 12x of PCI Express, and it's called NVLink. So
what is it currently at right now? Because when they say 12x, is it 12x?
12x PCI
more?
Express speed. Yeah, 12x that speed.
What is it
Currently at 3, right?
Currently at 3 what?
PCI Express 3.0. What is that standard?
Yeah. They're at PCI Express 3.0, but I don't know what the throughput of PCI Express 3.0 is.
About to find out.
If we spend more than 10 seconds on this topic, people are going to leave.
There's a lot on Wikipedia that I don't really care about reading, so let's keep going.
A lot of throughput question. Anyway.
Wow.
So, Assassin's Creed. You may not be shocked at all to hear they're coming out with another one. Yeah, exactly. They're coming out with 2 this year, actually. They because a lot of people have new consoles, so they figure if we make 2 separate Assassin's Creeds, I almost said Call of Duty. Freudian slip. If they make one on the old consoles and one on the new consoles, there are a lot of people who will buy 2. Because not everyone's Joel and just buys it for every console they have anyway. I've seen the multiple copies of Grand Theft Auto at your house, Joel.
Well, I have more friends than just one. Just than Dave.
It cuts so deep. So Assassin's Creed, we have Assassin's Creed Comet and Assassin's Creed Unity, although those may just be code names at this point. I really hope there is not an Assassin's Creed called Assassin's Creed Comet. We're going to space.
Although that would be kind of awesome.
You're floating around in the asteroid field stabbing people. Yeah, it really would be Call of Duty. Anyone else play Ghosts?
And sold.
There's like a 10-minute long gunfight in space. And like where you just push off and drift to other parts of the space station, like with no worry for the fact that you are in space shooting guns for some reason.
Well, you're in a spacesuit.
Sure, Joel, that makes it all make sense.
No, you're in a spacesuit and it has the little thrusters on it. You don't hear that? Did you not listen to the sound while you played the game?
Yes.
Or did you have your
what sound? The sound that you hear in space? The sound in space? Is that what I was listening to?
How were the guns working in space without oxygen?
It's the future, Dave. It's the future.
It's future guns, Dave.
Have you ever actually heard of theories of people...
Does every round come with like a little pocket of oxygen to burn the powder or something?
Maybe they're electrical. Maybe it works off dark matter, because that's something spacey that I don't
Maybe it's a real gun,
understand.
actually.
Maybe it is a rail gun. Maybe it uses the extra gravity that space doesn't need.
Maybe it's Call of Duty.
So, anyway, it'll take place in North America. You'll play as a Templar. And it will feature nautical exploration because they figured out that people like sailing and they are not going to let that go anytime soon. You will play as Shay, who is a sailor and a Templar. It will take players to 1758 New York. So, and
did you see the trailer for that one?
No, I've got the trailer. I haven't watched it yet.
The graphics look pretty insane. It's all a whole brand new engine.
And then Unity is the other one. So that's what we know about that.
Not the game engine.
Unity is coming out on the Xbox 360 and the PS3, and Comet is Comet is coming out on 360 and PS3. Unity is available.
I think Unity is going to be it. I think Unity is actually going to be some sort of mobile thing. I bet.
Well, it's not. It's not supposed to be.
3 games then?
No, 2 games. Comet and Unity.
Oh,
That's
right.
2.
Sorry, never mind.
Comet?
Sorry, Unity is the next Gen 1. Comet is the previous Gen 1.
Correct.
Got it.
So, Sam Snipes in chat asked, Germ, are you moved in yet? Yes. Okay, if you couldn't see the blank wall behind me indicating I no longer live in something with wheels, I do now live in an actual structure. It has bricks.
And a foundation, actually.
And a foundation. It does have a foundation. We were on the first floor of the foundation. I'm really enjoying city life. I went to Trader Joe's today, and now I am poor and must move back into the camper.
Did you buy some of those gummy Coke things that Joel found?
No. We were thinking, like,
Did you told him about those?
I told everybody about this.
So I figured we're moving up in the world ever so slightly. Maybe we could not buy all our groceries at Walmart, seeing as like they're a terrible store who treats their employees terribly, and their food is not the best. I happily eat from it, but we figured, for like a 10% bump in our grocery budget, maybe we could have like some fresh produce and stuff that hadn't been beaten to pieces by grubby rednecks. So the closest grocery store to where we live now is Trader Joe's. So I went there, and the first thing I thought when I walked in was, oh, this is small. The whole store is like the size of 2 Walmart aisles. As a result, it doesn't have as much stuff as you would think it does, but that's okay because you won't be able to afford to buy most of it. But the apples are very fresh looking. So I will get back to you when I see how much these dollar a piece apples taste. I bought a couple $1 a piece apples. They better be amazing. And I already told my wife that's probably the last time we ever go there. Okay, we're losing people on the stream. I will stop talking about Trader Joe's. There's nothing better in the world than irrational anger. And one of my favorite things that involves irrational anger is Joel's irrational anger against video cards with too much video memory. I don't know why this is a thing, but it is. So, Joel, are you sitting down? You are. Great.
I am.
NVIDIA has announced the GeForce GTX Titan Z, which brings you 12 gigabytes of video memory for $3,000. It is basically the Titan, like the Titan dual GPU version. Like I can't call it the 690 or whatever. There's the Titan plus 10. It's kind of 2 Titans. It has a total of 5,760 processing cores and 12 gigabytes of frame buffer. It's basically 2 Titan Blacks duct taped together. It's a little more complicated. NVIDIA is claiming it's so much more than just a dual GPU card, but I can't see any reason why that would be the case.
I think it's supposed to have extra instructions in the drivers for like scientific use.
Well, they say that. Well, that's really what Titans are really best for. Like, a Titan is not the best gaming card. I mean, it's the most expensive, but it's not even a great choice for gaming. It's fast, but for the money, you really should just get a 780 Ti, which is faster, or a 780, which is about the same thing, for literally half the price. But if you want literally the best card you can buy, you can buy 2 Titans for $2,000 or a Titan Black for $3,000 and hope there is a difference in performance. So that is a thing.
According to PC Gamer, if you actually run 2 Titans and SLI, they will beat the Z by quite a bit and for $1,000 less, because they downclock the clock speed of the dual cards to make them work on one single card.
That's the same thing with most. Most dual GPU cards are like that, right?
Every single one, yeah. The only real advantage is it's a little more convenient if you have a limited amount of space, and if you have games that don't do well with SLI, it works a bit better to have it all on one card, but not really worth it. Not even close to worth it.
No, and spoken as someone who has 2 680s in their computer, so Dave means it.
I just installed my new window in the case tonight, and now I can see them clearly from my desk.
Is there a hole where you can pet them? You weirdo.
That's coming next.
You're getting some velour to put on top of the cards and a little window so you reach through and, ooh, Daddy loves you. We're going to play DayZ now, so you go to sleep.
Oh.
Since these video cards are not really pushing anything, they're just giant cash grabs for the people that think they're getting some sort of like mega graphics computer. Do they just generally do that on the end of the life cycle of a certain series?
Yes. That's it.
What a cash grab.
Yeah, well, I mean, the dual GPU cards make sense for people who do want to have a single card. I mean, it does make sense for them. Or you can get two of them and run quad SLI, which doesn't really make sense for anything other than bragging rights. But, I mean, yeah, it's an option. But, yeah, it really is just so, hey, this crazy card, the 580 or whatever, how about the 590? It's two 580s that aren't quite as fast as two actual 580s, and it cost over twice as much.
It's not really a cash grab though, Joel, because what's happening is they already have the infrastructure set up to make these cards, and before they totally just scrap all of that to make the next cards, they want to actually get like one last burst of use out of all that effort to set up the infrastructure at the factories to make them. It's a lot of stuff to set up to make cards for a year.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I guess what frustrates me is that you're never going to get the true use out of them. They're not going to be like a...
I would say never.
Know. No, I don't think you would. Like, okay, my card I think is a 3 gig card, right?
Yeah.
In a few years, it's not gonna be able to handle it all, right? Just 3 gig. I mean, you're not gonna be able to run certain games. You'd think that a 12 gig card would be able to handle for maybe twice as long. So it's like,
well, I don't think memory is the limiting factor on video cards.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it totally is, but you'd think, okay, this mega card is gonna actually last a little bit longer than the rest, but it usually doesn't. Most video cards don't. No matter what the speed is, you're generally replacing.
They can last a lot longer than most people let them last.
Exactly. It's about, if you want the best like all the time, yeah, it's not going to last long for you. But if you buy a really high-end card and then you don't stick every new game that comes out every 2 months on 100% ultra like I'd like to do, it will last you a lot longer.
Like I like to say, Mark, newcomer to the group, I built him his computer in 2009. His graphics card is a 4870 ATI. That's how old it is. It's an ATI 4870. It is, let's see, so that's what, a 2008 card, I think?
Yeah.
It was $200 in 2008. He played BioShock Infinite on medium settings this year. He can play like most Source games all the way up. If it wasn't for the Windows 7 64-bit requirement, he could probably play Titanfall. And he's got a Core 2 Duo in that. And so you can make it go a lot farther. He's looking at a new build now with maybe like a 780 Ti. And if he doesn't want to do another build for like 6 or 7 years, he probably can. I mean, again, unless he goes to 4K, you're probably not actually going to use up all of that bandwidth.
I did a just quick calculation. Instead of buying that video card, you could give 7 people PS4s and games, and then they would all be happy. See how much more happiness that would bring if you just did that.
I'm not going to argue with that, honestly. I am sure that you would get much more value out of giving 7 of your friends free video game consoles than you would ever get out of that stupid overpriced card.
Because first of all, if you ever got that card, who would you tell? How would you be able to introduce that?
Hey guys, I've got a window right here,
card.
Joel. I can see it from my desk. That's the only reason I would buy it, so I can just look at it right there.
You did what? Yeah, $3,000 for.
Well, again, the Titan's more useful for people who do compute applications. Like if you do something that can really benefit from CUDA or something like that, then it makes more sense to get a Titan. Like there are advantages to owning a Titan, just like workstation graphics cards. Workstation graphics cards absolutely suck for gaming, and you can still pay $1,000 for them. They're not for gaming, they're for compute applications, and the Titan is really like a hybrid in between them. The Titan doesn't really make sense, to be honest. It's like a Lamborghini that only has a turbocharged 4-cylinder in it. Like it's cool kinda, but it's not really all it could be in any one category. If you guys aren't car guys, I see Dave, like his eyes are kind of glazing over.
Lamborghini, that's a car manufacturer,
They
right?
used to be a tractor manufacturer.
Actually, I didn't know that. That's a kind of
they used to make tractors. I would say you Google that, but why?
I'll believe you.
I'm sorry to everyone for the mouse cursors going crazy at the bottom of the screen. I don't think there's anything I can do about that.
Podcast intensifies.
All right, our guest will be ready in 1 minute. While we are waiting for him,
you will use a very long.
No. I want to answer this question. I'm going to wait to answer this listener question until because I don't want to like stop in the middle of it and bring him in. But so yeah, vamp for a minute, Joel. Just tell us what's going on with you.
Why did always start with a giant sigh? Oh, your life's so hard.
Honestly, I think
No, Joel, lie to us. Lie to me. Tell me you love me.
You know I do. Honestly, I think I've had more. I've had more dreams of Dark Souls than any dreams anything else in the last like 2 weeks.
What? I'm
Like,
getting really
keeping a
concerned now,
dream
Joel. Like,
journal?
really concerned.
I know. The
Out
game
of
like
all the dreams I have, guys, Dark Souls is leading.
no okay. Well, if you played a lot,
Explain to me how this isn't ridiculous. Go for it.
Dr. J is right there at number 2, though.
Come on, if you played like Tetris or Bejeweled for a long amount of time, you start like seeing that kind of pattern of stuff and things. And so I fell asleep, and you learn to like block and attack and all that kind of stuff in the game. And so I'm like, I had a dream about blocking and attacking and then dying and collecting my souls again. I'm like, come on.
Sounds like a horrible dream.
That was when I first started playing Splinter Cell. I started playing Pandora Tomorrow was the first one on the GameCube. Represent.
Yeah, GameCube, my last console.
Yeah. So yeah, after I played that for a while, because that was kind of like my only game for a while, I'd walk into rooms and be like, I can shoot those lights. I can't shoot those lights. Where are the exits? I was also 13. So anyway, Joel.
yeah, Joel, what's your excuse?
You were over double that age. Joel's actually the oldest person on this call, if that makes sense. I know he's got that sweet little baby face.
That's what I'm here for.
Dude, this year I turned 29.
29? Seriously?
Yeah, man.
Oh, I thought you were only 27. When are you going to grow a beard? Try the beard. You can do the beard.
I've tried it. I'm not. I'm
Mine's
like
not
more like
good.
a little
I
bit.
still
I'm just
did
a
it.
little bit.
Do
yeah,
it.
and yours
Do it.
is not good.
My tactical beard keeps me warm.
And I'll still have hair on the top of my head when I'm 40, Dave.
Oh, most likely.
Your family does have a history of baldness, right? I'm sorry if I was just... Okay, I think you mentioned
it's
that
true.
before. That's the only reason I brought that up. I feel bad now.
Oh, my feels.
So yeah. We're still not quite ready to add him onto the call.
When do I do my news is my question, because I got a good one.
You do have good news, but I want to give you plenty of time to get into that.
It's going to be a good one. I'm ready.
Let's answer a random question or two from the chat while we wait. Are there any questions in the chat? Let me scroll. All right, Dave already answered it.
One says,
No, please, just
your
keep
GPUs can see the open world of your office.
What?
Apparently, Dave's computer is so powerful the GPUs are becoming self-aware. It's like, I see you. I see you.
Hey, guys.
I know your fears.
Dave, see, what's nice is when you look at your computer, I can tell you do that on a regular basis. Like, when you look at them, I see a little bit of longing in your eyes.
A little bit of twinkle.
Just a little.
Oh, so my LED lights, I'm not sure if you guys can tell this. I installed them to replace my broken MBX lights, and they're actually brighter, but they came with a remote.
A giant remote.
It is a pretty big remote, so I can actually change the color of my lights here. You probably can't tell much.
Yes, you can. Yep, when you went blue. Yeah, no, you can tell, Dave. It helps that your skin is already the milky white to begin with.
The winter has not been kind.
The milky white of a cubicle dweller.
Hey, we have skylights now. I mean, we put paper over them, but we have skylights.
Dave, can you tell your story, 4-hour story?
Now?
I think it's pretty. Dude,
No,
this
our
is the
guest is
funniest
about
thing.
to.
He's about to jump in?
Yeah. All right.
Oh, there he is.
Hello. Are you here?
Hello.
Wait for the video. Wait for it. Hey.
You see?
Yes, I can. All right. We are welcoming, for everyone listening to the audio version, we're welcoming Tristan Moore, who is the creative director of a new game, Grave, which looks really, really awesome. It's currently on Kickstarter, and a little bit later in the podcast, we are going to be talking to him about it. But welcome, Tristan. Welcome to the podcast.
How's it going?
We were in the middle of just finishing up the news. Have you heard about the Titan Z? That's the last thing we were talking about.
Actually, no, I haven't really been up on that particular news item just yet.
Okay, are you familiar with the Titan?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, NVIDIA's releasing two Titans, kind of like they do the 590 and the 690.
Right.
It's a dual GPU Titan for $3,000. So it's 150% the cost of actually buying two Titans, which is just crazy.
Right. Okay.
It means I'd have to use my entire paycheck to buy a video card.
Oh, shut up, Joel. Okay.
Is it designed for like development or?
Yeah, it's because the Titan's mostly useful for compute applications. Dave, would you happen to know what some of those are? Please turn your lights off of blue. You look sick.
It's on green. I don't know what's going on here.
Dave has LEDs pointed at his face.
How's that? Is that better? Blue?
It's still blue.
Yellow. Here we go.
Yeah.
Whoa.
All right, fine. Sure. You've been to the beach.
I don't have good lighting either.
That's okay. Dave brought his own, and it's horrible. It's
I
horrifying.
need to test this out more. I'd like to think a lot of it is calculating DNA, stuff like that, DNA strands, stuff where like parallel threads are important. So
Okay.
I don't do it, so I don't really know that much about it.
I imagine it'd be pretty good for like film rendering and physics simulation and things like
Physics,
that.
yeah.
That's what I'd be curious about is the CUDA rendering, because CUDA rendering really helps me when I'm rendering video stuff. I mean, it's a huge difference, and
Sure.
the Titan, I mean, has so many CUDA cores on it. So I would like to see what like a dual Titan rig could do to video rendering. But yeah, other than that, for gaming, I don't see why they're still marketing it to gaming. It almost seems like it would make more sense for them to officially just move it over to their workstation line, the Quadros.
Yeah.
Like the Quadro Z or something, or the Titan Quadro or something. But
Right. I think that's always kind of a tricky game to play because when you're targeting the gaming market, you have a much higher penetration on just the general purpose audience. So if you want to get something into more PCs, you have a better chance with that.
yeah, it's true.
And I that may be what they're trying to do, but I'm not really sure. Like, I mean, people aren't buying the Xbox One because it's $100 more than the PS4. I'm not sure that people are going to jump out and buy a $3,000 graphics card.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, well, it's the same type of people who are buying Titans to start with. Like, you're not buying it because it's
Right.
the best performance. You're buying it because it's the
It's the
best
Titan.
video card. Yeah, it's the Titan. If they came out with like the Titan Max that was $5,000, somebody would buy it. I mean, it's there's always someone who wants the top of the market, regardless of how good the top of the market is.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the crazy part is that so many games are actually targeting console hardware first. You actually have a hard time finding games that really hit the current GPU capabilities on a PC anyway.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're really using this for gaming, you could probably just run like 4 copies of like Titanfall or something at once. And,
Well, and then in most resolutions that people play at, it's useless. Like at 1080p, you really can't even hit the full benefits of like a 780 Ti or something. It's just it's
You can
designed.
run it at 1,000 FPS. Don't you
Well,
want that?
Not really.
It's
But yeah,
going faster than you can think.
At
The world
1080p,
slows
that's
down.
what I can perceive.
Well, you can train yourself. Actually, I was who was it? Oh yeah, Picor, your friend, Dave and Joel was talking about when he was the one who played Unreal Tournament, right?
Yeah.
And they would play it like they would up the speed every time they played until they were playing at like 200x speeds when they would go play against people in tournaments. They were like just creaming them because it felt like they were playing in slow motion.
Slow motion.
So maybe you could do the same thing with like a Titan Z. Play it at 720p so you can play Counter-Strike Go at like 2000 FPS. Overclock your 144 megahertz monitor, get like 500 megahertz liquid cooled monitor to your eyes just bleed. If you
I want
could
to see
do
Also
that
that,
play
validate
Battlefield at
for just-
400%.
if you could do that, I guarantee you there'd be some people who are like, "Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah.
Where does the credit card go into the computer?
Yeah,
Let's make
yeah,
this happen." Okay, we do have a listener question that's slightly topical. Dave, a different Dave, who goes by the PSN of Trinidad_Winston. So if you have a PSN and you want to add Trinidad Winston, I'm assuming he's okay with me saying that because he did
Just
add it
did.
onto the end of the email. Yeah, if you want to be a part of the show, write into casualshenanigans@gmail.com. He says, "Hey guys, frequent listener / tuner in of the podcast. Joel, can't wait to see the Norman finished product. Seems like you and the guys are making some real good progress on it. Side note, Joel's doing most of the work. By most of, I mean 99% of the work. All of the work. Joel's doing all the work. Anyways, he had some questions regarding console gaming versus PC gaming. He said, I have used consoles my entire life, but due to recent breakthroughs in news, it just seems like PC gaming is a lot better in terms of money and variety along with gameplay. It's a very abrupt switch, but I wanted some tips and your opinions as to how to make said switch. Will I have to build my own PC? Should I sell the console that I have, which is a PS4? Maybe just a quick rundown of a beginner build I can start looking into. You guys seem to know a lot about the topic, and I don't want to try to make the switch without knowing much about PCs. Thanks in advance, and I look forward to hearing your opinions. Okay, Joel, I actually want you to go first, and you just say whatever you're thinking right now. I'm pretty sure I know what it is.
I was gonna say, but the PS4.
No. That's seriously. That's go in that direction.
I don't know. I mean, like, I think you have to weigh. I mean, the benefits. I mean, it really depends. Like, what kind of games are you wanting to play? That really is the big thing. Like, for me, for PC, it's like, okay, the games I really want to play on the PC, like that I can't play anywhere else, that you would really need the PC, would be DayZ for now. Like games probably like Half-Life and stuff like that. You just want to really push the graphics to an insane amount.
Grave, yes.
Grave, yeah.
Upcoming indie game Grave, which we'll be talking about.
I'm sure Kickstarter is going to do really
well.
Well. Put it on consoles and everything else too. So it'll do really well. So it'll be on consoles too, I'm sure.
Wait, that's a mark of doing well?
What?
That's a mark of doing well, is being on consoles? That's
getting
when you've
on
made
everything.
It?
Yes.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Well.
It's true, yeah, actually.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I enjoy having both because there's a bunch of games that I enjoy playing. It also depends, like, do you have a lot of friends that own a PS4 or the same console? If you're on PC, if you don't have many people to play with, you're not going to be playing with people often, or just randoms if you're cool with doing that. So I think it really just depends what kind of games you're really into. I wouldn't buy a PC and just go, hey, I just want to try to jump into game and just see what games I can find. Like, if that's what you want to do, then go for it. Yeah,
it's an investment. And PC gaming, I guess what worries me about your email, Dave, is that okay, he's saying DayZ, Arma, stuff that you guys play along with, stuff that's on consoles. If you want to play DayZ and Arma, you pretty much have to get a PC. I mean, there's no other option. But I guess the only thing I wasn't sure about reading your email, I said listening to your email, is it doesn't sound like you have a super clear reason of why you want to switch to the PC, other than you've heard that it's better, which if you ask pretty much any PC gamer, they're going to tell you that. Just like you have fanboys for either console. I mean, that's just how it is. And he says none of his friends have PS4s. That might be another reason to switch to the PC. But yeah, if you want to play DayZ and Arma, you have to switch to the PC. So it's that simple. If you really want to play those games, you have to do that. Now, I don't know if
just
you have
know that if you do want to play DayZ, you're not just going to be jumping onto a cheap PC.
Well, hold on.
Because most people that go and get a PC, it's going to be between $400 to $600.
Well, I would say that's cheap. I mean, that's the price of a game
cheap, but
console.
that's still a lot of money if there's only generally one game you really want to play.
No, it's true. It's true. So if you had to sell your PS4 to do it, I don't know. You want to think about it. Especially, I know you a little bit, David. I know you're a little bit younger. I mean, a little bit younger than us. You're not super young. But if money's a little bit tight or anything, like if this is a financial decision at all, I don't know if it's worth switching if you're not 100% sure about it. I mean, you have a computer. Because you're talking to us on something. So if it's a laptop, if it's an old laptop, okay, you can't really help you out much there. But if it's a desktop, maybe you can look into what games you can play on it now, and maybe a very slight upgrade, you could start trying some other PC games just to kind of get your toes wet and see if it's something you might enjoy. Because it is a bigger commitment than buying a console. Like, I mean, it's not quite as cut and dry as buying a console, especially if you want to play on the more cutting edge of things. I did find on Newegg, if you wanted to switch to the PC, I would not recommend building your own. If you've never done it before and if you don't have anyone else to help you, don't build your own, because it might be fine, but if something goes wrong, you're really in trouble, because you can't like take it to Best Buy and hope the Geek Squad's going to build your computer for you. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, you could ruin a big investment.
You need to know someone who can help you if you mess up, or you need to be able to do it yourself. So if you're going to buy your own, you could start out a decent computer for not a whole lot of money. This is an Avatar Gaming pre-built PC on Newegg. It is $620. So it's more expensive than a PS4, but it's not a ton more expensive. I mean, it's expensive as a PS4, an extra controller, and a couple games. I mean, it's doable, especially if you already have a monitor, mouse, and keyboard and stuff. It has an AMD... As an AMD FX 6300, which is a 6-core hexa-core processor, 3.5 gigahertz, 16 gigs of RAM, a terabyte hard drive, Windows 8 64-bit, and a GTX 660 graphics card. A GTX 660 is not bad. You can play DayZ at high settings on that. You can play pretty much every current game at medium to high settings, and it will probably be able to run most of those games for like the next 4 years or so. So if you want to get into PC gaming, that's just an example. I'm not saying this is like the best computer you can get for that price or something, but if that's a direction you kind of want to go, let us know and we'll send you some recommendations. But I would very carefully think about why you want to upgrade before you invest a lot of money into it one way or the other. The plus side is PS4s are still rare enough that if you want to sell yours, you can probably sell it for close to what you paid for it. So you're probably not going to lose a ton that way. But I don't know. Does anyone have anything else to add to that?
I was going to say, try to do your research, because I think the one thing that could be frustrating with PCs, or people saying, "Hey, PCs are so great, they do everything." Yeah, they do everything, but it's not like you just turn the power on and you go, "All right, I'm in a game. Okay, how do I chat with my friends?" Oh, you got to get another program. You got to know where to download it. Oh, do you want to capture your video, like, you know, your gaming? Oh, you got to get another program. So, like, do your research, because it's not just like you turn your computer on. It's like, oh, it's the best gaming thing ever. You got to make it that way. It doesn't just come that way.
It's the
so
strength
where if you do
and the weakness of PC.
Yeah.
It's good that you have all those options, but you have to know where to look to get the best options for what you want to do with it.
Yeah, because the PS4 is soon adding the functionality to record your games, do all the Twitch with just a few little buttons.
Do the Twitch.
Do the Twitch.
Thanks, Joel.
Twitch streaming, that kind of stuff, fairly soon. And PS4 is pretty new, so there's not a lot of games on it right now. But within the next six to 8 months, there's gonna be a lot more games on it. But anyways,
yeah, I think that's a good point about the longevity of the platform. Like, even when you're buying a PC for a lot of money, it's going to become outdated fairly quickly. And like, I know with our development, we have to do a lot more upgrading more often than like just a consumer would. But it's something to consider when you're buying hardware for gaming specifically, that like, if you don't have a huge dedication to PC gaming, it can be really expensive and only beneficial for a short period of time before it becomes something that's obsolete, whereas a console might actually have a little bit more longevity for just kind of like playing modern games.
He does say in chat, it's not necessarily the finances is not his dilemma. He just isn't sure if he wants to keep the PS4. He says he has a MacBook Pro, by the way. That's the computer he's on. If you have a MacBook Pro, actually, depending on how recent it is, its GPU might not be half bad. My wife has a MacBook Pro issued by her company. I'd never buy her one. And no, and it's actually it's pretty decent. It's got the Retina display. It's got a 2560 by 1440 15-inch display, so the pixel density is insane. It's got a decent GPU. I mean, it's not. You could build a 10 times better desktop for the money, but as far as laptops go, it's not horrible. If you have a relatively recent MacBook Pro, you can probably play a couple games if you switch over to Boot Camp or something like that. So, I don't know, you probably can get your toes wet a little bit and see if you like it, but, it's doable. Just make sure you're doing it for the right reasons, because it's an easy way to sink a lot of money into something. Like, make sure you really want to play DayZ. I think DayZ's awesome. But
PC is a little bit like Dark Souls. You hate it at the start because some things don't work, but then finally you push through it, and then it's really fun.
I never hated it. I'm a die in the wall. I'm a die hard. I'll be here till they cart me away. And our last bit of news before we talk about Grave is Naval Strike. Dave. Oh no, we have two bits of news. I'm sorry. We have your bit of news, but first we have Naval Strike. Okay, Dave. Why don't you give us...
an image of some guy with a band hammer, like going to your stomach, like Naval Strike.
Sorry, Dave. Why don't you give us like the 20-second rundown on what happened with BF4's Naval Strike?
So the promotion for Battlefield 4's biggest DLC so far, that is actually adding more game modes and not just new maps and weapons, Naval Strike. The marketing juggernaut started about a month ago, has been ramping up for the past few weeks. There was actually a teaser trailer followed by a full trailer, which was awesome. An excellent job by DICE's video team on the full trailer. They've had Q&A sessions behind the scenes of the map making. They flew a bunch of YouTubers out to Los Angeles to play for like an entire day, and everyone was posting. Yeah, well, it wasn't. Yeah, well, okay, yeah. I wasn't invited.
I'll show for you any day.
I mean, the marketing train was at full speed.
It was, yeah.
And it was supposed to launch this last Tuesday. It was going to be a staggered launch, PC around 8 o'clock in the morning Eastern Standard Time. Then I think it was PS4 at like 10 a.m. and then Xbox One at 1 p.m. or 12 p.m. What actually happened was around 3 a.m. on Tuesday, on launch day, with all of the trailers out, all the marketing done, everyone's super pumped. Battlelog on PC, the software that you use to actually join games in Battlefield, Battlelog was updated. It popped up for all premium users. Naval Strike, now available. They changed the background to an aircraft carrier with this cool bokeh animation effect. Everyone's super pumped. And then they posted a blog post on Battlelog. So guys, last minute issue. The DLC is going to have to be delayed on PC. Not sure when it's actually coming out. 3 hours before it was supposed to go live. 3 hours.
Did anyone wake up to play it, Dave? You didn't wake up to play it, Dave.
No. Actually,
Okay.
I got like a pop-up on my phone. I noticed that it...
On your new smartphone, huh?
on my new smartphone. Reddit was freaking out. And then when
No,
the Xbox...
not Reddit. They wouldn't do that.
It gets worse from there, actually.
Oh, does it? Go
So
on.
then the Xbox One time for the rollout rolls around, and there's no news or anything. There's just no Naval Strike on Xbox One. The PS4 version finally rolls out, and about 10% of the population who owns premium on PS4, their game gets corrupted. The ones who do get into servers get severe rubber banding. It is completely unplayable. About 5 hours after Xbox One is supposed to go live, they announce, okay, Xbox One is also delayed inevitably. They finally updated about 24 hours later, with saying that PC is probably in April sometime now. Xbox One, maybe next week.
So,
Yeah.
Who here would like to watch a documentary about the making of Battlefield 4?
I would watch it so hard.
I would love to see what happened. What is going on?
It is a comedy of errors. Like, just when you think it can't get any worse, like, I really feel for DICE right now, because I could not make up a story this bad. It's horrible.
I'm glad that we're all together here, so you can all hear the sounds of my mouse as I click on the uninstall button. I have finally decided that's it. Like, I'm out.
Tristan, what's your point of view on this from actually making a game and knowing more of the backside of this kind of stuff?
Well, I mean, so the one thing I think I would make a point of is that actually bugs are really difficult to catch sometimes. And, like, huge productions like this require insane amounts of work and production going into it. What I think seems really unfortunate, though, is with the amount of money that that EA has been spending on, like, marketing and making sure that they're getting the word out about the game, it seems like they could have been prioritizing some of their bug issues a little bit more heavily. It's almost like they moved their goals away from production and away from making sure the product was stable and just towards doing, like, a marketing push to make sure people were buying the game.
That's what I don't understand is, like, the marketing push the last couple days beforehand. They had to know this bug was still there. It must have been someone in charge of the budget or the rollout, or somebody was saying, no, we'll have it in time. Go.
Well, this isn't the first time either. It seems like
not at all.
hugely disastrous for Battlefield.
That's the thing. It's not like they've had this problem with this one. At Battlefield 4, every single thing they've done has had problems like this. Every single thing. Like, They haven't had one smooth introduction or rollout ever for Battlefield 4. Like, it's just been...
I would say, yeah, with something like that, I would almost bet money that there's some kind of from-the-top dictation of deadlines that is preventing the team from actually reaching their required objectives to fix bugs.
Oh, it's got to be, because we know DICE is incredibly talented. We've all played and enjoyed their work for years. Like, Battlefield's one of my favorite all-time series. Like, I love DICE, and I know that they're better than this. That's what kind of makes it more frustrating.
It hurts.
Yeah, this is not DICE in their typical form.
I don't want to be talking about this again.
Well, it's obvious something has gone wrong. Something has changed. This isn't them. You know, yes, they are making the game, but this isn't the traditional DICE we've come to know and love. So yeah, it does have to be. There's somebody or a couple people somewhere in the process. Most of the dev team, if the game's not ready to go, most of them would rather keep the game till it's ready to go. If money wasn't an issue, they would rather release a fixed game. I'm positive.
Right.
Yeah.
I wonder if this is kind of a console generation gap problem too. It's been roughly like doubling the budget of games every time a new console generation comes out. So Xbox 360 is about twice as expensive to develop for as like the Xbox One was. And like it's been going fairly consistently in that kind of range. And I wonder if maybe this was something as simple as they didn't anticipate the increases in budgetary considerations for jumping to the new console generation and having to push higher polygon models and spend more time working on the engine and all that kind of stuff that goes along with setting up a new infrastructure for a new console generation. Like maybe they just literally did not anticipate for it effectively.
It's possible. With Battlefield 3, they didn't anticipate the like when they jumped up to consoles, they didn't anticipate the huge server load, and the servers were terrible for the first week or so. I mean, it happens. Like it is possible something like this.
Battlefield 4 is a 5-platform game. That's terrifying to think about.
Yeah, I mean that's
everything from 360 to modern PCs. I would not want their job.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's definitely a tough job for all the crap. I mean, I give them a lot of crap because the game is horribly broken, but.
And we want it to get better.
And I want it to get better. That's what, if I didn't care about the game, I would just move on. Well, I technically have moved on at this point. I'm willing to come back if they show up outside my door with flowers and stuff. Or heck, if the game works, I told Dave this, if the game works for a month straight, if nothing goes wrong, which I feel is reasonable for a game once it's been out for like a year or so, if it works for a whole month, I'll come back because I want to play it and I want to enjoy it. But it is officially uninstalled now. I'm looking at like my fresh 30 gigs of new hard drive space. Woo, feels nice.
Well, and then there's also the SimCity stuff. I wonder if EA is just like combusting or something.
Self-destruct.
It almost seems like it.
There was a rumor that Xbox One was not supposed to come out at the time it did. I mean, because PS4 was ready, but Xbox One was actually behind, and so I have a theory that the Xbox One is a big cause a lot of this because it came out. They tried to push it out a little bit quicker than they.
You don't think they were going to launch last fall regardless?
No, because there was a lot of rumors there was going to be spring. Like they basically really pushed to get it out there, and that's why a lot of the software on Xbox One is really lagging behind. That of the PS4. I don't know. There's not all the features on PS4 as well, but it works well compared to the last one, and it's much harder to get games running on the Xbox One. I mean, every other freaking game is like 720p, can barely handle it, and it's running at lower FPS. So I have a feeling a lot of devs had a lot less time to work to get the Xbox One, and everyone's like, gotta get Battlefield 4 onto it, which means everything else. So the PS4, the Xbox One, and the PC at the same time. So I wonder if it was just like a gigantic, you had the 6 different console or platforms.
Yeah, I wonder if it would,
DS. That'd be fun.
Wonder if it would have made sense for them to just hold it off and like actually release it a little bit after the PS4, because like their marketing was so bad leading up to the launch of the Xbox One. Like the PR was so negative. I think that maybe they should have just actually held it for 3 or 4 months and just said, okay, we're gonna regroup and get this taken care of and like kind of get all of our ducks in a row and then launch rather than trying to get the same launch window.
I think that would have been great. I just watched the trailer for Watch Dogs today. Have you guys seen it?
Yeah.
New trailer?
You mean the one that looks worse? Or
Yeah, that one.
No. There was a new trailer that came out today showing the game. And it looks awesome. I'm always not talking about graphics. Like there was like, wow, there seems like a lot more to this game than I originally thought. Yeah. Like it almost kind of reminded me of a GTA 5 demo video where you have the guy talking about the graphics and the engine and the different things that happen. It looks awesome. But the first trailer, when they first announced it, it didn't really pique my interest because I was like, yeah, you can. I mean, like it's cool you can roam the streets, graphics, yay. But I was like, if there's nothing to do, I'm not going to probably play it. Like, I don't know. It's just going to be like every other game that's just open world. But now I'm actually kind of want to get it from the trailer. So I think if Battlefield spent more time and just released it really well. I mean, like, I freaking think that the beta was way better than the game when it first came out.
Yeah, I agree. The beta was a lot of fun.
I had a lot of fun, yeah, and it worked really well.
The beta was probably a vertical slice.
I know.
I mean, but I think they're going to have to for Battlefield 5. I think that even whoever, like the terrible evil mastermind behind shoving all this out continuously so early, even Lucifer? They have to be seen. They have to be seen at this point that like they can't come out with a Battlefield 5. They can't announce that like a year from now. I mean, people are not going to be excited if they announce Battlefield 5 anytime soon. It is going to be a horrible failure. They probably need to announce like Bad Company 3. I think if they announce Bad Company 3. All the Bad Company fans will come crawling back out of the woodwork. People will love it again, and they can wait like 5 or 6 years for Battlefield 5, but I don't think they can pump another one out.
I hope they don't.
I hope they don't, but...
I wonder what kind of contracts they have that they have to make another one 2 years.
Exactly. I would worry about that.
But the sucky part is that, like, it's going to be announced, literally, like, if they will, it'd probably be, announced end of this year? Right?
No, it'd be announced next year. It'd be announced
early next year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Early next year. Yeah, that's right.
one can hope that they would just fix the game, but like
One can
the
hope.
unfortunate problem is that there's like a 3-month window after a game's launch where you actually have any possibility of market penetration. And like that's one of the reasons they're not really fixing SimCity is because they're like, yeah, no, we already lost our audience potential with SimCity, so like we could fix it, but why?
Right, they're not going to, they've already sold what they're going to sell. I mean, they're going to have a trickle, but it's not going to be significant.
Yeah.
Right, and that's the sad part, yeah. It would be nice if they could make the game actually just work, but you know.
They already sold it for $20 back in November, a month after it came out. It was on sale for Black Friday. Battlefield 4.
Oh yeah.
It was $20 a month after launch.
Wait,
It's because
what?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
A month after launch. It was technically $30, but Origin had like a $10 off coupon you could use too, so $20.
Wow.
Cool.
Uh,
At least
Dave,
half off after launch. Yeah.
Our last news story of the evening. Why don't you tell us about this thing that happened recently in politics in regard to video games? You're smiling like a small child, so I know this is going to be good.
I'm going to enjoy this. I've been following this guy's career for a while. Today,
with great anticipation.
Today we have our hypocrisy of the week. There we go. Today we're going to talk about Senator Leland Yee out of California, a state senator. Let's talk about his career first. He's known for two things that actually are very important to me politically. He's very anti-gun and he's very anti-video game. Let's talk about his video game career first because it involves the Supreme Court, actually. In 2005 in California, he got a bill passed that required, actually banned the sale of violent video games to children with like no actual definition of what that entailed. Basically, he said that the ESRB did not do its job and that the government needed to step in and prevent the sale of violent games to children. He passed the law, and 1 month later, the Supreme Court overturned it. And then the Entertainment Software Association sued California for $300,000 for legal costs, and they won. So that was a huge fiasco for his anti-video game career. He's also very famous for some quotes supporting the ban of semi-automatic weapons, including pistols, rifles, that sort of thing in California. I got a quote right here that he said after the very horrible Sandy Hook shooting in 2012. He said, "It is extremely important that individuals in the state of California do not own assault weapons. I mean, that is just so crystal clear. There is no debate, no discussion." Well, we're talking about him this week because last night he was arrested by the FBI. Arrested for the following charges.
Try to keep the smile down so you get all the way through it, Dave.
Here comes the grin in. He was arrested for corruption, for bribery, and for gun trafficking.
There it is.
Wow.
Since 2005, he has been running guns through the Philippines for the triads in California.
It's so good.
He's not running like AR-15s, like semi-automatic rifles and pistols and that kind of thing.
It gets better.
The guns that he's been running into California include fully automatic light machine guns and armor-piercing rocket launchers.
Oh my gosh!
This isn't a joke story. Like
This is 100%
It's like he's trying to
real.
sneak a tank through airport security. Like, shh, don't look at this, guys.
This has been going on since 2005, and I had that quote a minute ago about how Californians don't need assault weapons, which to him is any semi-automatic rifle with 1 shot per trigger pull that takes a magazine. That's his definition of an assault rifle. This is a quote from his FBI informant secret tape. When the FBI informant was asking him about gaining some of these gang weapons, he said, "People want to get whatever they want to get. Do I care? No, I don't care. People need certain things."
Oh,
wow,
so good. Yeah,
that's stand-up gentleman there.
Yeah.
Like, if I was writing my dream, like, what's the dumbest political move you can make? I think somewhere on there would be, let's imagine you were a super anti-guns lawmaker, and then you were running guns for organized crime.
Machine guns
Like,
and rocket launchers.
I know, that's like so many levels above. I don't think I could even come up with that. Like, I don't even know if Hollywood could come up with that. Like, there's people like, guys, come on, that would never happen.
It sounds like The Onion, honestly. It
does.
Over the top. And here, to top it off, in 2006, the Brady Center to Prevent Gun Violence awarded Senator Yee and added him to the Gun Violence Prevention Honor Roll. That was the same year that he began running guns for the
What type of
triads.
stupid made-up award is that? The anti-gun what's it called?
The Anti-Gun Honor Roll. I don't know what that means.
Honor. You get a gold star.
That
of
sounds
worthlessness.
legit.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of like giving Obama a Nobel Peace Prize for sending more
Oh,
troops
man.
to another war, right? Oh, anyone?
He-
Crickets. Okay.
I appreciated that. Yeah, but even besides the gun running, he is facing some serious corruption charges for accepting hundreds of thousands of dollars for pushing people's agendas, like very specific agendas.
Well, that's why he
And-
wanted to ban semi-automatic weapons. He wants to have the the lock on the market.
Yeah,
He's just a good businessman, not a great politician.
and that's our hypocrisy
People
of the
vote these
week.
people in.
Oh, okay. Oh, I feel so good. Like my spirits are just so lifted right now.
I do not want to be that guy this week. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, Tristan,
Yeah.
we've really enjoyed you joining us, but we didn't just have you on to laugh at news stories this week. You
Sorry about
are
that.
currently kickstarting a game called Grave, Open World Survival Horror. Now, is the full title Grave, Open World Survival Horror, or is just the title Grave?
We basically are using the title Grave, but we wanted to have something descriptive.
It is,
And
yeah.
we've been using open world survival horror as kind of like a tagline. So I would say that that's basically the title's Grave, and then the tagline is open world survival horror. So.
Okay, gotcha. Now, give us the, well, take as much time as you want. Give us the rundown. What is Grave for people who don't know?
So we actually started Grave in the 2013 Global Game Jam as just kind of an experiment with like open world horror stuff, and we had a kind of a fun time working with it. Did some work on it, and then like put it out on the internet for people to play. And then we found out like a few months after that we'd had like dozens of Let's Play videos of just like random people we didn't even know were trying out the game. So we started kind of thinking about what we would want to do to bring it into full production. And we're all huge survival horror fans, and we feel like that genre has kind of like dissipated over time. So we sat down and we kind of figured out what we wanted to do to take survival horror and turn it into something that like works now with our current sensibilities about games. So Grave uses an inventory of items, much like you would expect in a survival horror game. But one of the things that it does not do is give you like traditional firearms. Like there are no guns, there are no direct attacking weapons. They're all kind of tools that these creatures of the night have weaknesses to or react to. So like a lot of them are light based or fire or things like that you can use. And every enemy has kind of like their weaknesses and their resistances. And the further you go into the game, the more resistant those creatures will become. So our goal was to basically create a diverse set of horror experiences dynamically by interacting with creatures and scenarios rather than just having a bunch of jump out scares and kind of like holding down the W key and the shift button to like run the whole game. So that we could have that kind of agency that you would experience from old school survival horror games, but with the kind of modern horror sensibilities that you'd come to expect from something like Amnesia or Slender the Arrival.
Cool. Yeah, and I have to say, I looked at the Kickstarter. I mean, I watched like half the video, scrolled through the page, and immediately backed it. It looks awesome.
Yeah, same here. I was just like, oh, this looks awesome.
And now you're developing in the Unity engine, and you kind of made a joke earlier, but you weren't wrong. It looks gorgeous. It might be the best looking Unity engine game I've seen. Granted, I don't know every game that's developed in the Unity engine, but it looks really, really good.
It does.
Why did you choose the Unity engine? I'm just curious, because it seems to be the darling engine for indie developers right now.
There's a few reasons, and so like we just had a bunch of announcements about like Unreal and CryEngine going like super accessible and everything, but like basically we did a lot of development using Unreal Engine, and we found that just the iteration time for getting a game developed in Unreal was just really, really slow. Because of the way that they require that you compile and rerun the game, and like the way that the compile process is actually separate from the editor, and just a lot of things like that ended up making the turnaround really slow. And then they have their own scripting language, and it just becomes really, really difficult. The reason that we went with Unity initially was that we actually got the game up and running to a basic functional state in 48 hours for a game jam. And it was literally one of the first games we developed in Unity. And we actually got all of the kind of key bullet points of what we needed for the game which just showed us how amazingly easy Unity was to work with. And since then, like, we've worked at a few other Unity projects at like kind of other contracts and studios and things that we've been working with. And really, like, so we just took the sensibilities that we have for building high-end Unreal content and tried to plug that into Unity as best as we could. And then we benefited from getting one plugin that was just recently released, which is the Marmoset Skyshop image-based lighting, which is actually kind of like this cool rendering solution that allows you to do kind of like almost global illumination light bounces and things in the environment, which has been something that has contributed a lot to the graphical quality. And yeah, I mean, other than that, it's just been us trying to like work hard with what we need to get done and like utilizing assets where we can to just make it really look good and sell the concept of the game, I guess.
It does look really good. I mean,
are those the same guys that do the Marmoset tool bag?
Yeah. So actually, they recently released a Marmoset plugin for Unity specifically.
Nice.
And, yeah. So like, and that was really exciting for us because we're all familiar with like the Marmoset rendering tool bag and everything. So,
yeah. I use it sometimes myself. It's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, so plugging that into like a game engine like Unity, we were not sure how far we could go with the graphics, so we've been pushing it pretty hard previously, but like I'd say that the Marmoset plugin really gave us that additional push to like make it no longer look like a Unity game and actually look like a AAA quality experience, even on the cheap with an indie budget. So
that is sweet.
Now from looking, go ahead.
Excited.
From looking at your concept art, a lot of these creatures look really creepy. So good job on that.
Oh, I was going to ask real quick, who does your concept art for your
it's
team?
this guy named Richard Partridge. He actually, so my wife and I are probably like the lead developers on the game right now. And Abby, she lived in the UK for most of her life. And so Rich is actually from the UK. He's done some work in Germany and in a few other studios. And he does a really good job of hitting kind of the creepy tone.
Yeah.
And so like right now we can't bring him on full time for development until we like get our Kickstarter funding, which is one of the reasons why we're doing the whole Kickstarter thing, is because it's been kind of just like me and Abby working on it for the most part. Yeah. And we want to be able to like hire people on to do individual chunks of contract work, and then also to be able to pay for all of our licenses that we would need to actually get access to all of the tools that we would use in full production. And yeah, and I mean, so we've been really excited to like get new stuff out into the game frequently, and a few people in the press have gotten access to a build to actually play and do some Let's Plays. So that stuff should be streaming in pretty soon. This is our first Kickstarter officially. I did one like when Kickstarter first started and I didn't know what I was doing, and I just basically like set it up and I was like, hey, people will give me money now, and that was it. But so we're kind of learning as we go. But yeah, I mean, doing things like this is definitely helpful to kind of like get the word out and let people know what we're doing with the game.
So when did you start working on this project? When did you say you worked on it?
So we officially started the prototype for it in January of 2013. Then I wouldn't say that we spent full-time developing that. We had a kind of a 6-month gap where we didn't really do anything on it. Once we kind of wrapped it up a little bit and then like put it out there and just people started playing it. The version that we have available for the Kickstarter that we're going to be able to give as the demo and everything is representative of about 4 months of work. So, and again, that's kind of after hours stuff. So like we have some jobs at other studios and things that we do more AAA that we're hoping to shift away from and move into doing this game full-time indie is the hope.
What's the recommended? How long are you trying to make the game about?
We're trying to hit like almost like old school survival horror as far as length, like because we're not trying to go for like a 20-hour epic that just like sucks you away and doesn't give you value. So like we're shooting for between 5 and 8 hours of like total expected playtime.
That's about the time of the latest Amnesia, the second one. Did you get to play that yet? I really enjoyed it. It's a really good game,
yeah. And actually, it's funny. So, like, because we have some light-based weapons, we've had a couple of people make the comparison to like Alan Wake.
I saw that, and to me, it didn't remind me at all of Alan Wake. I mean, the only similarity, like you said, being the light, but other than that, I think it's pretty different.
Well, yeah, no, actually, we're going for way more like the Destino of video games, like almost like a Salvador Dali kind of interpretation of games. But actually, it's funny. Somebody made the comparison that it was almost like Alan Wake meets Amnesia, and like, well, I don't entirely agree with that. I think that's, I mean, that's a reasonable comparison if somebody wants to kind of have a frame of reference for just like what to experience. That it's a little bit like it. I wouldn't say it's completely accurate, but.
Now, would you say it would be fair to say that the goal in the game is not to, like a lot of games, the goal is to shoot, blast, whatever, your way through everything until you emerge victorious. Right. The goal of this, I'm assuming, is to progress through the story while avoiding or just trying to hold these monsters at bay. The goal, like you said, you can't really fight them. You just try to beat them back. So
some of them you can fight, some of them you can't. And so that's one of the things we wanted to be able to do is provide a broad sampling of experience. So like there's a certain amount of procedural kind of dynamic spawning in of creatures as the sun sets. So like you don't always know what you're going to encounter. Some creatures may actually be something you can directly kill, but you want to be careful because there might be a creature right behind it that actually is attracted to the thing that you're currently doing to kill the other creature. Oh. So like if you throw out a flare and the flare like hurts this one creature, it may actually just be an attractant to another.
That is cruel and amazing.
A bit of a match of like trying to figure out what like tool for the job, not necessarily like rock paper scissors, but like rock paper scissors lizard Spock or something.
Yeah.
Because we think that's what really makes horror experiences scary. Like the early survival horror games really relied on the idea that you were genuinely afraid because you were personally in danger. And even though they did that with some really horrible ideas like tank controls and cameras that don't show you what's directly in front of you and all that kind of stuff, you still had those moments where you were like just genuinely scared for your life, and that produces a really interesting kind of dynamic. And modern horror games do a really good job of kind of like seating you in kind of a roller coaster ride where you have a bunch of cool stuff happening, but you know that ultimately, like, if something gets you, you respawn like a second away, and you don't really have serious loss or kind of real challenge. So it's ultimately like it's kind of like a theme park ride where you've got kind of bumpers and you're safely tied in, and like you're going like, oh yeah, I'm scared, but like it's not really a feeling that you're actually having. It's just kind of like going along for the ride. And we don't like that. We want to bring kind of a hybrid of both experiences so that people who really like horror the way it exists now like can get that feeling, but that they get it for like real reasons because they're genuinely reacting to an unsettling scenario that they're currently engaged in while they play.
I will say the only two games I've ever genuinely be scared by are games where you were a little bit helpless, where you couldn't you couldn't blast your way through everything. It was Resident Evil 4 and Amnesia. And in both of those games, like they did take a lot of that away from you, so you couldn't, like, you weren't powerful, you were really scared, and you really couldn't do a lot. And you were in a bad way, you were in danger, like you were saying. And to me, those are the only two games that have ever scared me. All the games like jump scares and stuff, it's just never really done much for me. Yeah. Well, just like with horror movies. Yeah. Movies with lots of jump scares and blood everywhere and stuff have never scared me. The only horror movie that's ever genuinely scared me is Signs. And it scares you because there's that building feeling of suspense the whole time, and they just don't tell you what the thing is. Like they build the suspense, they don't throw you right into it. So I think it's cool that you're going kind of the less traveled road of doing that, because I think that combined with your monster designs and what you said about the different things attracting other things makes it sound like this is going to be a genuinely very scary game.
And actually, one of the things I didn't even touch on entirely, like, so we've been using like the surrealist inspiration for kind of our visual style, which is why like we have things that are realistic, but they're kind of in this barren wasteland, and some crazy things pop out in the distance, and things get a little bit weird as the game goes on. But like the thing that we think is really interesting about that is that we're actually changing the world while you play. So like we were bringing out a demo probably tonight or tomorrow where we actually kind of show that off a little bit. But like the idea is that every time it becomes dark, creatures come out, but the world starts moving around too. So like there are literally locations that will exist for like one day, and then will literally just vanish into the distance and may not exist for days or weeks after that. And it gives you this kind of idea that there's this kind of fluctuating world that not only are the creatures appearing dynamically, but there's a certain amount of unpredictability in just what you're going to see when the game loads up.
So, see if I'm on the right track here. So, like when I play Rust, at night you don't want to be outside at night in Rust. Right. So you go, you hide, you make a fire, you sit in your cave, and you wait until morning. Same thing with Minecraft. So what you're saying is, let's say the sun comes back up, I'm not going to recognize where I am necessarily, or like when I try to go back out and get supplies, or just using the analogy of those games, I'm not going to be able to count on knowing the world. Like it's going to change on me every time.
Well, to a degree, yeah.
To a degree,
like,
okay.
We're trying to be a little bit careful that we don't completely disorient people, because we've done some playtests where we had lots and lots of things transforming, and if we have too much with no frame of reference, like that makes it kind of frustrating, right?
Okay.
So the idea is more that new things to discover materialize while you play. And so, and one of the reasons we wanted to do that is because we don't really want people necessarily hiding out in their cave all night while they're getting ready for the next day. We really like the idea that people will kind of evaluate risk and reward and say, okay, these 2 new buildings disappeared, but then these other ones popped up. I could go explore them, but it may actually get dark while I'm out there because I don't know how much exploration I'm going to have to do there. So maybe I'll be there looking at stuff and I'll find some really cool items, or maybe the items won't be that useful, but then it's getting dark and I'm out of my comfort zone, and kind of trying to choose which things are worthwhile to do, whether you go on your main progression or you try to find new inventory items to kind of beef up your collection of tools, or if you just set up a generator with some gasoline to power some lights and just wait it out. And we want to really constantly enforce that idea that there's multiple things that you could be doing. And that's one of the reasons that we ended up originally coming up with the idea of the changing world, is just because it gives you a reason to explore more often.
And I like that, like you said, the subtly changing world. So that I guess it's to foster the feeling of just people being a little bit unsettled constantly. Like you can never feel safe. Is that the goal?
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think it's we don't want to say too much about the story.
Okay, I understand.
But we can say that the story is centered around the idea that this world is pretty strange. And you don't necessarily know if you're the only person in the world or not at first. As you go, you start meeting some people who are more than a little strange. And then you start figuring out, what is this world? Why are you here? Who are the people that you're meeting in this world? Why are these creatures in this world? And, why does it change? What is the point of all of this kind of stuff happening? And that's kind of the experience that we want to build up through the game. So, these things that may not make a whole lot of sense, why does that building pop in and out of existence? Or why do these creatures appear at night? All of those things are kind of part of the framework that we're expressing in the narrative, and we're trying to figure out the balance for how much we tell people and how much we just sort of leave as a mystery. But right now we're kind of leaning on the mystery side because we think it's sort of interesting to tease about.
Yeah, I would rather finish the game with a few questions but finding it really cool than have never have the point where someone sits down and goes, okay, this is what the Matrix is, because that's kind of when that's when that trilogy went off the rails. I think some questions are good, and yeah, man, this thing, it looks so creepy. And I admittedly don't play a ton of horror games, mostly because when I play a really good one, I get scared and then quit playing.
Right.
But this looks really cool. Now, I'm very excited to try it.
Are you supporting the Oculus or trying to include some sort of VR
Okay,
support?
all right. Well, I guess we'll throw that in now. I was going to save that till the end, but because there is some big news about Oculus lately. But I do think this game is a really good candidate for the Oculus Rift. Any sort of horror, suspense,
exploring.
Exploring, anything like that seems like an awesome fit for the Oculus Rift. So what was your line of thinking in adding Oculus Rift support or working on Oculus Rift support?
To us, I mean, Oculus is it's what we think kind of first-person games are in a way. It's the logical extension of when you're playing a game from a perspective that is actually putting you in that position. So to us, it seemed really natural. We know there are a few different horror games being developed with Oculus, but we really feel like it's crucial to moving forward with these kind of game experiences just generally to make sure that people can experience them in virtual reality. And we because we're doing all these kind of surrealist stuff, we think it's really cool, the idea of making our environments as realistic and detailed as possible, but then doing things within it that just don't make sense, and then putting you in virtual reality, experiencing that. Like it creates some trippy experiences when you're like walking through the desert and you see things like that didn't exist before, and it kind of hits you on a more like subtle note when you're viewing it through virtual reality, because you have that certain part of your brain that's like tricking you into thinking that you should be seeing something that makes sense to you in the real world. So the more we play with that and the more we add kind of like unpredictable horror elements and things like that, it just has been a really nice fit for the game experience that we want to have.
Now, this year I've been planning to buy an Oculus Rift, or at least I was planning on it, and hopefully things still, however it goes.
You bought it by the Facebook announcement?
Yeah, as long as it's still like, you know, there's not gonna be some weird supporting issue because of it. I think I still want to get one. Just from the last couple of videos I've been watching and reading about it, and I listened to the entire Sony conference of them talking about Project Morpheus, their VR.
Right.
And man, it's just like for me, it's been a dream I've had since I was a kid to be able to just like live in like this world and explore on my own. Did you guys get a chance to listen to the conference or watch it all?
Yeah, I mean, we saw a little bit of it. Like, we're really interested in getting onto consoles if possible. Right now, the game is like PC, Mac, and Linux only.
Yeah. I was just wondering if you watched it. It was just interesting because there's a lot of things that just kind of blew my mind about that don't and do work in VR, how things just work so entirely different.
Sure.
Just that the game has to always have a stable frame rate, like, and it has to be above 60.
Can't dip
it's got to be at least 60 or above, like always locked, because if it really can screw your head up pretty much.
80 tends to work best.
And do you have one? Or have you used one?
Like, so the game is fully supporting the Oculus Rift right now. And the press builds are performing.
What is it like using an Oculus Rift? Like, because I watch videos, but I've always wanted to ask some questions with people, like, because for me, I'm thinking like you're wearing it and you can look around and it really like, does it feel kind of 1-to-1, pretty close?
It does. I mean, so I would say that, like, because we only have the original dev kit, they just announced a new one while we were at GDC, so we haven't gotten it yet. Yeah. But the only problems right now are basically resolution and like viewing angle, right? Because you do kind of feel like you're wearing goggles, like it does limit your viewing range a little bit. And that's partly a resolution problem, right? Because if they're trying to stretch a resolution across a wider range, it might get a little bit too pixelated and hard to see. But I think that I have never quite had an experience exactly like it, which is one of the reasons we wanted to go with it. Like, it's not really a gimmick to us. It seems like something that really is going to move forward in an extremely significant way. I feel like I have weird body sensations when I'm playing the Oculus Rift. Like,
that's what I keep hearing, that like people feel this. I was watching this one guy play Mirror's Edge, and the guy was like, he wasn't one of those chatter boxes on YouTube where they're just like, they're doing everything. Right. He was playing really quietly, and he had to make this jump, and he was looking down, and he had to make this long jump and grab onto something. He just said, like,
you can actually get vertigo.
He said he felt like he could feel the wind as he was going and grabbing, like, oh dear God, I don't want to let go. Like, and I'm like, oh, I'm so excited about that. And during the conference that Sony had, they were explaining that they, like, in a serious tone. It was interesting, from a video game conference. They were saying, please, developers, when you do this, know that this is a ride. Like, this is like, you can terrify people with this thing very easily.
Like, when we've done our playtest for Grave, we try to show it with the Oculus Rift whenever possible, because we just think that's a really cool, like, peripheral. And actually, as a game designer, I've been a little disappointed by it, because people are so interested in staring at rocks that they, like, don't even notice there's a game there. And it's like if you were watching somebody play Half-Life 2 with the Oculus, and they're just like, wow, there's a box here, and like the walls and ceiling, and it's like, and because we had people play for like 20 minutes, and I was like, hey, there's like a thing over there that you can go and do. And they were like, no, I'm good, like, that's cool. It's getting dark, like, I'm nervous, so I don't really. It's like.
So, well, this is actually, the timing is fantastic. I was excited when I figured out we were actually going to have you on tonight because they just had the big announcement, and we're actually talking to a developer using the Oculus Rift. How do you feel about the announcement? I've got a lot of mixed feelings.
So the Facebook thing?
Yeah, the Facebook thing. And for anyone who doesn't know, if somehow you avoided this announcement, Facebook has bought Oculus or has finalized a deal to buy Oculus.
At first I thought it was like an Onion thing, honestly. Like, I didn't actually believe that it was a real article. I had to literally, like, I Googled it like 4 times to make sure that this wasn't just like a thing, like some conference joke. Because like we were at GDC when the whole thing happened, and like I seriously thought someone was messing with me because like it just didn't sound like it made sense.
It sounds very odd, yeah.
Yeah. So I have kind of 2 reactions, right? Like my first reaction is the kind of like icky one. That's like, I don't really know about like Facebook and like what Facebook's goals are with something like this because they're like really not in this space at all. But then like there is a possible upside, which is when Apple like set up their iPhone like infrastructure for initially letting like games be published on iOS, it seemed like something that was not necessarily that cool as a gaming platform, but it quickly ballooned into something huge. And the main reason I think that happened is because so many people had phones. And so many people had iPads and things like that. And it's like, I don't really think it's because like Angry Birds is the best game of all time. I think it's because people had the hardware.
They were already buying the console. So when they found that there were fun games on, they're like, hey, even better. I mean, that's the only reason I have games on my iPhone is like
it's 2 taps away. It's not.
Yeah, I
scroll through agreements, click install drivers. You know, it's.
If I had a flip phone, I would never buy an iPod Touch to play iPhone games. But since I already have an iPhone, well, there's these great games already available. I might as well play them. Now, so there's kind of like 2 groups in the internet. I've only seen the negative side of this. I haven't really seen a whole lot of people defending Oculus, except for troll accounts on Reddit. There's a lot of, I guess, I don't know. Maybe Facebook's turning a couple dozen employees
I
loose.
can give you a defense in a second.
Okay, sure. No, give it to me now. I want to hear it. I mean, I've got one of my own. I want to hear yours.
If Facebook is willing to, you know, like acknowledge that this whole thing is slightly outside of what they do and grow the company in that direction and not just try to conform Oculus to Facebook, we could be in a scenario where in like 5 or 6 years, the Oculus is like a mainstream device that almost everyone has access to because of Facebook's like kind of social platform. Like if they do the things that they were talking about saying like basically Oculus is like the biggest social platform we've ever seen. Like if they make good on that in a meaningful way, we could suddenly have like an iOS store equivalent where we could access tens or hundreds of millions of people simply because a non-gaming application for this device is available and encouraging people to purchase it. Or maybe even if they like can push the price down, like that's even better. And then we could really have something that huge amounts of people have access to. And I would be okay with the kind of icky Facebook feeling if it means that like hundreds of millions of people could potentially play my games.
Yeah. Well, and something important for people to keep in mind is there's no guarantee they're going to do the icky Facebook thing with it. I'm looking right now at the list of companies that Facebook owns. They own 46 companies. A lot of companies I've heard of, and I don't use most of them, but I've heard of them. And as far as I know, none of them have Farmville pop-ups and, you know, and little social ads popping up all over the place. Like Facebook, they're a business. They're one of the bigger businesses out there.
Well,
they buy other companies
as well. I mean,
yeah. Like, definitely. They buy other companies. It's like it's a way of having more revenue. They want the patents. It is a smart business move for them. Now, as far as Oculus is concerned, for the people hating on them, I'm not trying to. Well, no, I love playing devil's advocate. I won't make any apologies. I'll just go for it. There's a large group of people saying they have screwed over their Kickstarter backers. That is not true. The Kickstarter was for dev kits. Dev kits have been out for a long time. They have completely fulfilled their Kickstarter. Just because you kickstarted the project, anyone listening, does not mean you have the right to dictate where the company goes in the future. You helped them get off the ground. You helped them get this particular product, which you have received. So they don't owe you anything now. Second thing is $2 billion. Okay? If you were a business person, $2 billion. Joel, you've been working on Norman for like 2.5 years. You know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
It's a project
Yes.
you're super excited about. It's a passion. If Facebook said, we want to buy your movie for $2 billion, what would you say?
Yes.
Okay, Tristan, you're really
Pretend
excited
to
about
hesitate,
Grave.
Joel.
If
Pretend.
someone came up to you and was like, here is $2 billion for your game, would you sell it to them?
So, I mean, I would like to say yes, but there's also a little bit of a caveat. And, like, I kind of wanted to talk for a second about what you said about, like, Kickstarter backers.
Sure.
Because, like, I think what you said is a good point. But I think there's also kind of, like, another side to it that Kickstarter backers have, which is genuine.
I was going to get to that.
So, like, I think the problem is that when most people back a Kickstarter project, there's a large number of people who don't really even care about getting something. Like, when I back a project, I don't usually care if, like, they ever send me the game. The reason that I back it is because I want to be part of moving something forward that I believe is positive.
You want that thing to exist in the world so much that you want to put some money toward it, regardless of whether or not it succeeds, but you want it to exist.
Yeah, and I think Kickstarter backers have an idea that they understand what it is that they are helping to have happen. And that when the company goes off in another direction, like when Zach Braff gets a bunch of money from like traditional funding to do his Kickstarter film after he gets the Kickstarter money and like things like that, just they go against why a lot of people actually invest in something in Kickstarter. And I do really think that that's what a lot of people feel like it is. That it's actually like an investment. It's kind of it's more than just a product purchase.
You're investing in the company. You're giving the company a chance. I think a lot of people do feel sold out by the company. Like there's a lot of memes on Reddit doing the Obi-Wan Kenobi thing from Revenge of the Sith going, you are the chosen one. But I think a lot of people do feel like that, and possibly like justifiably, because Oculus, they've been very delightfully weird for a couple of years now. Like they're doing something, they're doing something so out there and so cool. No one thinks the Oculus Rift is just a lame idea. I haven't met anyone who thinks it's lame. Everyone thinks it's a cool idea.
Yeah.
And
I think the only people who don't like it are like industry veterans who like did VR in the 90s and are like, I'm totally over that. And then they see this and they're like, I don't want to do that again. Like,
kind of like Microsoft with tablets. They had their tablets in the early 2000s. No one bought them. And then Apple
Bill
comes
Gates
out with them.
was all like cocky about that.
Yeah, Apple came out with them and they're like, oh, well, screw you. And then 3 years later, they're like, okay, fine, here's our tablet. Oh, no one's buying them again. What are the odds? But no, I think a lot of people, like, they felt like Oculus was, like, they were, to some people, it felt like what they would react like if Facebook bought Valve. Like, out of all the companies, how dare you buy this one? You know, how dare this company? I think a lot of people felt like Oculus was so PC and so indie that there was no way they could sell out in quotes, to Facebook, which is about as the man as it gets. Like, you could sell to Facebook or Microsoft or Apple. Those are like, I think a lot of people.
Obama.
Those are
I want that.
The government, the government, Microsoft, Facebook, and Apple are kind of all on that level of they're not super cool as far as indie companies are concerned to a lot of people. So I think a lot of people felt kind of betrayed by that. They're like, how could you do this to us? It's important to note, though, the product hasn't been screwed up yet. The product hasn't actually been released yet. So I think a lot of people are kind of jumping the gun. Like, it might have already sucked when it released. It doesn't look like it was going to, but it's not out yet. Battlefield 4 looked really good a couple months before release. Like, you can't, you can't call it this early. Maybe Oculus Rift was going to be terrible and Facebook pumping a lot of money into it is going to save it. Maybe the Oculus Rift was going to be awesome and Facebook is going to run it to the ground. I can imagine. It can't be cheap.
$2 billion, I think anyone needs that. But
yeah. Well, do you need $2 billion or is it like a really good opportunity to just go ahead and take it? But yeah, I mean, developing VR can't be cheap and it can't be easy. And if maybe this gets it out twice as fast. Maybe they'll sell them for $150. Like, you never know. It's too early to call it one way or the other. It might be terrible and it might be good. And neither of those things might be because of Facebook.
It's kind of sad because it's one of those situations where I agree with almost everybody on all sides of this issue.
Yeah,
like,
I can see
everyone
all
has a
sides.
valid point about what could happen here.
After watching Sony's announcement, and they were really talking very good about Oculus, and they respect it completely, and they think what they're doing is incredible work. And Oculus is the same way back for Sony. They've been working on this for about 3 years now, and they were actually going to possibly show it off last year, but they decided not to. But during the event, like, it just got me so excited because they realize, I think they truly realize that even with the Oculus, how like I love the Oculus, and I obviously haven't met people and talked with them, but from what I've read, it's so PC and it's so indie that I knew it was gonna be a great device, but I never thought I don't think it would ever like take off massively. Like you would be like a very high amount of people that would buy it for just high-end type of games. But what Sony is really excited about is that I think they truly understand when this thing releases, it has to be released perfectly, because if you don't roll it out in the perfect way, if it doesn't work right out of the box and it doesn't just like amaze you instantly, people are going to forget about VR and it's going to go away for the next 5-10 years again until someone does it really well.
Well, actually, that's another thing that's interesting is that even if Oculus succeeded with its initial launch, like prior to the whole Facebook thing, there's a strong possibility that they could have just then immediately been like sidestepped by a bunch of other companies jumping the bandwagon and doing it as well. Like whether it's Sony or Microsoft or any other companies, like Mad Catz could come out with one, and like, I mean, there's going to be a point where once they've done all the legwork, like somebody is going to do it as well that may have more infrastructure. Mm-hmm. And as cool as it is for Oculus to be super indie, like being super indie is not necessarily good for their long-term advancement of virtual reality.
Not at all, no.
Because they could just become like the guy who did it first and isn't that cool, now there's 500 people doing it. And I think them making the decision to get serious financial backing is as smart as anything they could have done. Mm-hmm. And I think gives them a chance of securing their long-term future, even if Facebook feels kind of weird right now.
I mean, maybe it makes them less cool, but it is absolutely the smart business decision.
Yeah.
I mean, because again, they don't know if their product's going to be successful yet. It's not like they're sitting there going, nope, we've got a good thing going, like people love it, you know, everything else. They haven't released it, so they don't even know if it's going to be a success. So for an unreleased product, the fact that someone wants to give you $2 billion means you're doing something right.
I think a way to put it in perspective is think about the way like just phones are now, you know, with the touch screens, right? Man, like nothing was touch screens. You go into Sheets and that would be touch screens, or little like places in venues and kiosks and stuff. Right. And they were touch screen phones, but they weren't very good. Like they were pretty laggy. The resolution was low. Even the FPS for using the UI was very slow. But when Apple came out with it, it kind of blows my mind how quickly there's no more buttons anywhere. Like that kind of scares me in a way, but like they did it right. So even with VR, like I'm expecting Apple at some point down the road, they're going to come out with something that's very light, super insane, you know, but it's got what Apple does well and what they did well with the iPhone is they made it accessible. It worked right away. There was no hassle, you know, and it got into everybody's hands. It made you feel cool. And something in the conference, which was funny, and Sony's conference was saying, if there's any place to do VR to get it popular, it's going to be through gamers. Because like a lot of gamers don't really care how they look. And I was like, that's kind of stereotypical, but that's kind of true, you know? You got to make this thing look cool. I mean, like you're going to show your friends off this thing, and if you look like a dip, you know, like, you know, putting this thing on, they said you have to be able to put it on with your own hands. You can't have someone else put it on you. Like you got to be able to adjust it and use it without
a ground maintenance team to help you get the gear on.
Exactly. It's you know, it's got you know, like, and they were saying that any games coming out for it, they're pushing for the developers to say, don't make a game then port it to VR. Make a game specifically for VR, because the first critical year of getting this thing out to actually make it work. Because I'm imagining, even with Facebook, and I'm kind of glad a little bit, like, the only thing I was more sad about Facebook is that, you know, Facebook tried to launch their phone and it was just a piece of crap. Like, I don't know how well they are with hardware stuff, you know, and I'm not a huge fan of Facebook. I'm just not a huge fan of a lot of social stuff anyways. But I think VR is going to be the future of social stuff. It really will be. Eventually, one of these days, I was reading the book called Ready Player One. Has anyone heard of that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a really good book. It's all about VR and stuff. But just being able to put this on and go, all four of us are sitting around a campfire, a virtual campfire in DayZ or somewhere, and we're just chatting like that. Like that would be amazing. Yeah. Like, you know, hey, let's go explore Chernobyl. You know, like let's go see.
Like World of Warcraft already has a huge amount of that. Like the number of people who just like log on and hang out with their friends and kind of like half-assed kill things and stuff. Like they're not really even playing a game. They're like socializing, but in a game.
That's us a lot of the time.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's so many things that can be done with virtual reality that aren't the usual challenge model of gameplay progression experiences that'd be really interesting to see explore. And like I'm really interested in what the future has for VR.
I hope what Facebook does with it is not necessarily say, hey, we're making a Facebook VR. We're going, hey, we're supporting a VR device that's really far advanced to what most people are working on, and it's a great device. And we want to be the first social company to come up with an app that, so as soon as you buy that thing, it goes, you know, like just like every media player now, it has Netflix, it has like Roku, all that kind of stuff. Oh, it can install onto it. Or no, sorry, not Roku, Crackle or whatever the crap.
Yeah.
Sure.
But if you get this thing, it's like, oh, Facebook Connect? Like, what's this? You put it on, whoop, 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 you know, like your friends appear there. Like, what the crap? Like, the Sony conference said, imagine if you want to buy a hotel room. You can go to, you know, Hilton Inn or Hilton, you know, hotels, and you can see your room layout and go, oh, man, I want this. Or, whoosh, I want to see the other room. I want to get a suite. That is going to be awesome. Or imagine yourself, you could see yourself in the clothes that you want to buy, you know.
Sure.
There's a lot of things that could be awesome, but I think, you know, whoever does it first has got to do it right.
Okay, now, Dave, real quick, do you have some comments of the week for us?
I actually just have one. I picked my
Okay,
favorite
all right,
for the comment of the week.
we'll get it ready. We'll circle back around to a minute. And Joel, do you have a 90 seconds for this week?
You actually stole my 90 seconds.
I did. Okay, I'm sorry. If you want to think of something else to rant about real quick. No, we're not doing it yet. We're not doing it yet. Oh. Okay, if you want to think of something else to rant about, we'll come back to it.
What was it, by the way, Joel? Originally.
It was the video card, the new PC guy. I didn't want to mention him all day. I was like, oh, what if you're not going to mention it? I was like, I'm going to have some new
You
PC.
wanted to yell about that 12 gigs of video memory.
I did. So I was sad
My PS4 don't need that.
Okay, so before we do that though, let's circle back around to Grave real quick because I want to make sure we finish out the discussion on it. So you have a Kickstarter. You have 31 days to go as of the time we record this.
Yes.
You're asking for $30,000, and just so people know, hopefully everyone, we're gonna have the link to everything Grave related is going to be in the link of the video. So please go check it out. But you're asking for the money. It's mostly to pay, like you said, salaries so that people can, or wages so that you can bring more people on and contract more work out, right?
Yeah, so there's a number of costs of development, like getting licenses so that we can like push to platforms effectively and things like that. Getting like software licenses are always a factor. But the main thing is that like development takes a lot of time and effort, and we're doing a bunch of this work right now in our spare time, and like many of the people that we have working on the game, just like they need to be able to set aside the time to work on something and really get it done. And unfortunately, if we have to have like a full-time job and then just do Grave after hours, like it's going to take us a really long time, and we don't necessarily have the ability to get the highest quality people or to get like the work that we need done on the game. So like we ask for a small amount of money as far as when you compare it to like a game dev budget. This is not like we're funding ourselves to make the game for a year. We're getting the money that we need to like strategically pay for individual bits of work so that we can like pay artists to do concept work, like Rich, who did all of our concepts so far. We'd like to be able to pay him to do like a full set of concepts. We'd like to be able to pay some people to get some of our infrastructure together so that we can, set up a fully launchable game. Whether we end up on consoles or not, that's another factor. But and then basically just be able to make the game. And it's definitely a small amount. So we're assuming it's not going to be, just a walk in the park. But
right. Well, and I wanted to commend you on that. There's so many game Kickstarters you see that are total cash grabs. Like they're asking for $200,000, $300,000. There was a DayZ clone, like 2 months ago, Dave?
Oh,
a DayZ clone asking for $500,000, and their stuff was garbage. Everything they had to show was garbage. So I think it's obvious by looking at it, you guys, for the amount of money you're asking, the number of people you have, and how far along you already are, I think this is I think you're doing this exactly the right way, because you're not overreaching. I think you're asking for a very reasonable amount, and I think you already have a really impressive game that you're showing off.
Oh yeah,
thank you. Well, we're asking for what we felt was the right amount, because it's actually it's the minimum amount we would need to actually ship the game to a release product. And so and again, since it's not full-time wages, it's like maybe a McDonald's salary for one or two people.
Right? No, I completely. We all do freelance work here. We completely understand. But I really do hope you get the money, and we're definitely going to push on this end, because I am legitimately excited about playing this game. This looks really cool.
And if there's any reason that it would help that we somehow review the game in a beta state,
all I hear, Joel,
I'm sure that would get thousands of extra views, and thousands of extra Kickstarter.
Oh, Joel's doing the hard sell. No, no. I think you've got a good enough product. We just need to get it in front of enough people to see it. So we will happily do everything we can to help with that. And it looks like you've already gotten some press and stuff. So I hope that continues.
And well, actually, this is great. This is super helpful for us to have like discussions like this, so that we can tell people what the game's about, and it's just really great to be on the show. So thank you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But sorry, before I forget, Joel. After we actually go off the air, I've got a couple questions to ask you, Tristan, that might help. So sorry, Joel, go ahead.
Oh, sure.
I was just going to say, because I just finished up Kickstarter for a film that I've been working on as well. And hopefully, on your case, at the end of it, that everyone's payments actually go through. That was the only frustrating thing with mine.
That's something I've heard about.
I didn't get about the full amount. And it's really hard, and you feel so douchey going, hey, your payment didn't go through. Just want to, you still want to help out? Because it's like, people go, hey, it's like, you made your $30,000 goal, but then half of the people's payment went through, or they reminded. So you're like, dang it, well, not really at $30,000. So hopefully that will go really, really well for you. So
yours ended up, though, you ended up getting...
Mine was very close.
Yeah, you ended up getting almost all of it, though. So I think that is more the norm.
But, you had to fight to get to that point for a while there.
Yeah, I did.
So, Dave, what is your comment of the week for us?
I'm going to start out the comment of the week with asking you, Jeremiah, how long have you been producing YouTube videos as a hobby now?
Since June of 2011. So
that
almost
is very specific.
Almost 3 years.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I'm about in the same boat, late 2011.
And you're so much more successful.
It's still enjoyable. I still enjoy doing it as a hobby. Mm-hmm. But we got a comment on one of our Daisy videos from early last year, actually. And I just laughed so hard when I read this comment. Nice and simple, to the point. Here's our comment of the week. What kind of loser tapes their video game? End comment.
Now, tapes, I have to assume they meant record. But tapes, now, just in case you're not familiar.
Record,
exactly.
That shows how out of touch they might be.
Like tapes, like you put in a VCR and you've got to like pause and like the screen's shaking. And you're like, here's my song, and you hit play. Yeah, like
I'm just glad that somebody finally noticed the extra mile that I go to tape my footage via VHS.
Dave, I have figured it out, though. I told you I was going to figure out a way to actually tape your PC with a VCR just so I can explain. Because this person, they've got it figured out, okay? They're not an idiot. They know how to do this. What you're going to want to do is buy a TV tuner card from like the mid-2000s before we got all the like the DRM type stuff on your tuner cards.
I've got one somewhere.
Okay, you want to get one of those tuner cards. Now, you're going to have to download some hacked drivers, but if you get the hacked drivers, you're going to be able to output through your composite outputs. So you want to get that output through your composite outputs, run it into your VCR, and you are set. You are set to make your standard def full screen recordings of
full
Daisy
stereo audio,
which you can then rip back onto your computer to throw back up on YouTube. I would actually like to see someone do that because I can only imagine the quality is so horrible.
Besides actually laughing out loud, all I could think with this comment was, please, no one show this guy twitch.tv. He will freak out.
You'd be like, wow, all of these losers. Like,
there's so
what
many
is wrong with society?
We're pointing like, have you heard of someone called PewDiePie, the largest video game or the largest YouTube channel in the world?
Oh, by the way, did you guys know that PewDiePie played our...
I saw that. That's cool.
Yeah.
That is
our early
really awesome.
prototype.
Did you actually hear about that pretty fast, or was it just like a month later you just heard about it?
We did not know he'd played it. Like, I sent it to him on Halloween. Like, we literally, like, because we'd found out a bunch of interest in the game, so we had, like, recently done a name change. We used to be called Stygian Shade, which nobody understood. And so we changed it to Grave, and then we did, like, a few updates here and there, and, like, basically I just had, like, kind of a bug up my ass to do a Halloween Grave update. So, like, I went in over the weekend and I just did a bunch of new additions. Like, I threw in some of the weapons we were thinking about doing and just, like, a bunch of random stuff. And so then I sent a message to PewDiePie on, like, his YouTube channel. And I was just like, hey, you should totally play this game. It's the best thing ever. And then I was like, well, that was a failure. And then, like, months later, we were promoting the game on Facebook. And one of our Facebook friends, or fans, I guess you could say, they said, hey, I've seen this game before. And I was like, no, I don't think you have. He's like, yes, I think I have. And then he, like, linked PewDiePie, and I was like, oh. That's like 3 million views. No wonder our interest spiked.
Well, I was gonna say, I have a friend of mine. A friend of mine made one of the first Slender games, like when the whole Slender craze hit.
Yeah.
He made one of the first little Slender mini games, and PewDiePie played it back when he had like 1 million subscribers. But just I might be getting my timeline wrong a little bit, but like shortly after that, this guy's Dropbox got suspended temporarily because it had a open download link. Like you could download the game to try from his Dropbox, and like it got the PewDiePie hug of death, where Dropbox was like, okay, that's too much traffic. You're getting shut down. But yeah, that's cool though. I'm glad you got like I know we're nothing near the size of PewDiePie, but I hope other channels, our size.
We're kind of close though. We're close.
Do you guys do like Let's Plays or previews or reviews?
Yeah, from time to time we do.
Absolutely.
I would love to, especially of indie stuff.
If you'd like to, we have a press build that we can offer you. So
I would absolutely love to do that.
preview it.
We usually turn down free things, actually.
Okay, sure.
I'm not as high as Oculus, but I require about $1 billion to pique my interest in stuff personally.
Right.
But
You gotta have standards.
Joel, did you have something you wanted to rant about real quick before we go this week?
Just that I sent him the email first about being on the podcast, so I want to play the game too.
Well, yeah, we I think we can hook you up with a link to press build.
I would definitely appreciate that. I'm very excited. I might even do one of those Let's Plays where you point the camera at your face. I would never do that for most other games. But I think for a horror game, it makes a lot of sense.
You can't do horror without the reaction shots. Like
No, but actually for my 90 seconds, I actually had a question. The reason why I actually liked your game was I have an idea that I've talked with Dave and my friend James a lot about trying to build this small 2.5 hour just game. It kind of, sort of in the vein of that game called Dear Esther.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love Dear Esther.
Yeah. Where it's just a simple, just kind of walk around, explore, just very atmospheric. I make films, so I thought it'd be really cool to just do something that would work really well with the Oculus. That's just exploring and it just feels very real and I love almost any game that takes away weapons and just allows you to just slowly kind of walk and explore and stuff. And
I love stuff like that.
Yeah, so I saw that and I was like, because after I finished my film Norman, that's something I really want to actually pour some of my time into a little bit to just try to. Sure. I just downloaded Unity and I have like the 30-day trial and I'm messing around with it. I've got some really cool textures and stuff, but I have no idea what I'm doing. But I'm like, man, I would love to just do this really simple, basic game that lasts maybe 1.5 hours to 2 hours at max. But yeah.
What Joel's not saying is his current plan is Joel is the lead designer, and Dave is lead art, animation, texturing, environment art, level design.
Okay.
Hey, Joel is a true leader. He's a true leader. He's like, you can do the work I want.
Well, so actually, what's funny? It's funny you mentioned the whole Dear Esther thing, because like actually, Dear Esther was an early inspiration for the kind of thing that we were doing, right? Because one of the reasons the game has a day-night cycle is because there's a huge like space for emotional input in games like Dear Esther. And Dear Esther is not a horror game per se, but you feel really immersed in the space. And so when we decided on doing night and day, we kind of saw it as like during the day you're playing Dear Esther, and at night you're playing like Slender or Amnesia. And the idea and like the reason that we went forward with the game is that concept was proven somewhat correct. Like, people are way more nervous while they're playing this game because they have that kind of, like, split between emotional levels during the day when they're kind of calm and not too much is happening, but they're exploring a world that's kind of changing around. And then at night, when it gets dark and, like, the shit hits the fan. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but...
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Then, like, the tension is a lot higher because you have this idea that, like, this is not that kind of experience, right? Your brain sort of tricks you into relaxation, and then when you go into a tense moment, it feels like an actual tense moment rather than just a reflex challenge in a video game.
Yeah.
That's good. And I'm like I said, I'm very, very excited to hear more of this. If people want to learn more about it, besides just clicking the link in the description, can they like follow you on Twitter and stuff? Where else can they find a lot of information?
We have a Twitter account at Grave Game. We're on Facebook.com/GraveGame. Then you can go to our website at www.grave-game.com. And then we also have our company website for www.brokenwindowstudios.com.
Awesome. send me an email with all of those so I can include them all in the
Sure.
all in the
Yeah,
list.
I'll go ahead and send you all of those.
Okay, cool. Because I don't want to. I should have had paper in front of me when I asked you those. I'm like, I'm not going to remember any of this. But
We're
no,
on the air. It's cool.
yeah. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate you, especially because it was kind of last minute. I appreciate you coming on to talk to us tonight.
Yeah.
It was really interesting, and I'm very, very much looking forward to it. If
Yeah,
you
thank
want
you
to
for
follow the
responding to
rest
my
of
email.
us, yeah. If you want
Sure.
to follow the rest of us at Casual Shenaniga on Twitter, stupid character limit. CasualShenanigans@gmail.com. You can follow at Evil Viking and at Germ Gaming on Twitter. But thank you everyone for tuning in. There will not be a live podcast next week. We're going to be filming some more scenes for Narman. If we can somehow come up with a maybe another cabin cast, who knows? No promises, but I'll have the recorder
We
with
might
me.
actually have time, actually.
Just in case, I'll have the recorder with me. But yeah, there'll be no live podcast next week. But thank you everyone for tuning into this one, and we will see you all later.
Thanks,
See you
everyone.
guys.
Thank you, guys.
Stay casual.